It's go time. Let's do this. First of all, I want to thank those of you who are still joining and have joined our webinar today, where we are going to be talking about plan smart and pivot fast. I like this. Is the one and done planning dead? It's a really good question to ask. And we're going to dig into that and a lot more. My name is Jim Williams. I am the CMO of Brandmaker. And I'm delighted to be joined by Marcia Trask from Forrester, who I will ask you, Marcia, to introduce yourself when we roll to your slide.
Okay.
But first, in case you've never been on a webinar or a Zoom meeting before, you have to be living under a rock for that to happen. As you know, we record these things. We will distribute the recording after. Don't worry about it. If you get disconnected, we'll send you a recording of this and share it. And you can ask questions during the presentation using the Q&A functionality, which is, for me anyway, it's the bottom of my screen. Don't do the chat. I see there's a bunch of chats going on. Feel free to chat, but if you actually want to have a question and answer, please use the Q&A functionality. That's what I'm going to be looking at. So a couple of things. One, before I hand off to Marcia, I just want to talk a little bit about the topic today, which is obviously about marketing planning and the reason why we're talking about it. I feel like I've had a long, it's certainly not a storied or distinguished career, but a long career in marketing, specifically tech marketing. And I don't think the topic of planning has ever been as hot as it is right now. And I guess it's for obvious reasons. The situation on the ground and the environment and the markets, the changing consumer expectations, supply chain disruptions, global pandemics, just means that the time between when you plan something and when you execute something and then have to make changes because some condition changes, it just seems like it's getting compressed. So it's really about, you have to have a smart plan, but you have to be prepared to pivot because it seems like those pivots are happening more and more frequently if you're in the business of marketing. And so I'm excited to talk about this. I've seen this conversation coming up over and over again. It comes up with our customers, prospects. I talk to my peers about it. And so I'm excited to get into what is planning and how has it evolved. Before I hand off, just why is Brandmaker talking about and who is Brandmaker? Well, obviously Brandmaker is in the business of providing marketing operations software that essentially allows you to run the business of marketing. It's funny, like a lot of investments have been made in MarTech over the last 10 years, but most of them about how you execute marketing, right? Send that email, personalize it, grab data, etc. And actually not enough investments have made in how you actually run your marketing business. And for us, that means your ability to plan, predict, fund, execute, and measure things. And that's effectively what Brandmaker does. And I'd just like to say that we do even more of it now because Brandmaker is the combination of several companies, which also include Allocadia, you may be familiar with, and a company called Hive9, which are all in the same business of marketing operations software. So enough from me. I gave my commercial. Let's turn it over to the expert who's on the call today. Marcia, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what we're gonna dig into today.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you. And I love your description about all the investment dollars going after execution technology and not much going on running the business of marketing. I always think of it as this little unstable pyramid balancing on its tip. So delighted to be here to draw some attention to the need for a good planning foundation. I'm Marcia Trask. I'm a principal analyst at Forrester. I sit on our marketing operations strategy service, and I have been in B2B marketing in the technology industry for a very, very long time. I've been in your position. I've been a practitioner, I've been a consultant, and I've been an analyst now for 6 years. So basically, that's a nice way of saying I'm old and I've done this for a while. Let's address the question that Jim posed right up front. Planning, one and done, is it dead? And I would say absolutely, one and done planning is dead. We're still going to see a lot of organizations required to do, more of a formalized annual planning process. But if you're just planning once and trying to set it and forget it, that is just not the right thing to be doing, especially in the dynamic environment we're all in these days. So with that, let's dive in. What we're going to be covering today is several things. We're going to do a little definitional work on planning. We're going to talk about how you can actually build and bake responsiveness into your planning. And then we're going to talk about cascading planning. So once you have a really solid, good annual marketing plan, then what do? How do you translate that into actionable work that your teams are going to be executing on? And then tie it off with a little bit of a conversation around budgeting, because I know for a lot of you who are attending today, planning and budgeting tend to be synonymous. And I'm here to tell you most definitely they are not, and they should not. So one of the mantras that I have that I'm going to probably repeat several times on the call is that as you do your planning, you want to plan to strategy and then budget to plan. You start with the strategy, you end with the budget, not the other way around. So let's dive into this. So quick little discussion about how we see planning at Forrester, because it's not simple. It's not a single process. Planning is the important work that you do in a marketing organization that makes that connection between the strategy that I just mentioned and business objectives, and ultimately the executable work that your marketing team is going to own. We look at planning in a B2B organization as having multiple layers with different time horizons. So as you can see, you usually have your 3 to 5 year growth strategy. This is something that your company executives are setting. It's, big picture decisions about how the company is going to grow, what it's going to stand for, what it's going to deliver. And the time horizon is usually about 3 to 5 years. If you click under that, then you start getting into your annual revenue planning. And again, this is more bound to a fiscal year, where you're also then looking at specific business objectives the organization wants to accomplish. We'd like to grow by 20%. We want to enter into this market. We want to target a different set of buyers. We're going to change a route to market. All of those can be significant business objectives that, again, marketing as part of the organization must support. Then we get to the annual marketing plan. And again, this is never going to go away, especially if you're an organization that's publicly held. There's always going to be an annual reset of what marketing has accomplished, what the other functions have accomplished, how the goals are changing, how we're adapting strategy milestones for the coming year. And there's also the refresh, again, on funding, which shouldn't drag planning, but it is an element of the annual planning process. Underneath that, there's layers of plans that are very specific to marketing. The rest of the organization looks at the strategy and the revenue goals and does some functional planning. But in marketing, there's also the opportunity then to build out campaign plans. We're going to dig in a little later what we mean by campaign. It's one of those trick words. It means something different for everyone. Underneath campaigns, we have the concept of program planning. This tends to be a related set of activities around an aligned goal, like demand programs are obviously a thing. Everyone's very familiar with that, but you can also be doing reputation programs to build thought leadership, to drive awareness. You can be doing customer engagement programs to engage with your existing customers, to support onboarding, adoption, and ultimately retention, especially since many of us are now carrying recurring revenue goals. And then there's also programs around enablement. And this is the work that marketing does to enable telesales or field sales, channel sales, third-party channel partners, so that they can work with the demand that the marketing organization helps source for the company. Finally, the little tiny kernel here is what we call your tactics. And it's not necessarily a plan, because the information on the tactics you're going to be executing comes from your annual plan, your campaign plans, your program plans. But you do need to have a visualization of the different tactics you're committed to. And that's going to help break down some redundancy or gaps or overlaps within the work that marketing is executing. All right, that's it for the vocabulary lesson. Let's move on to some of the more exciting stuff. Jim raised a really good point at the introduction, and that is that there's a lot of interest and excitement and, concern, anxiety about planning. How could we do it better? We're in such a volatile time. And I'm here to share with you that you're not alone in thinking this. One of the studies that Forrester recently did, it's a little bit more in our B2C side of the house, but in our technographic study, we showed that 40% or more people are considering that accelerating your response to business and market changes is a significant priority. I mean, hell, we're coming into year 3 of a global pandemic. If you haven't had to tear up a plan or rethink or readjust, I'd like to meet you because obviously you're doing something very incredible. But for most of us, plans have been changing rapidly, and this is something we have to adjust to. We also do a longitudinal study where we speak specifically to B2B CMOs, and it's trended for the last several years that the top process that they'd like to fix in their organizations is their planning and budgeting process. And what we're just seeing now is the events of the last few years have just absolutely turned the heat up on that need. They need to be better at planning. They need to be more responsive. They need to be able to communicate plans and rally their teams and to be able to respond to things that are changing so quickly in our environment. The other data I wanted to share is we also did a study in partnership with Agile Sherpas at the beginning of 2020 for organizations that have adopted more formalized Agile methodologies, Agile practices. And for those groups, planning never basically ends. Most, as you can see here, 27% of our survey respondents review and revise their plans quarterly. 39% review then revise their plans even more frequently, such as monthly, based on business reviews that they structure and run internally. And another 13% keep an ongoing adjustment of their tactics and programs with things such a concept such as big room planning or program increment planning, where different teams come together and review their committed tactics and programs to make sure that there's no slips or that adjustments need to happen. So planning, if you are more of a formal Agile organization, just never stops. It's something you're always looking at. And there's definitely some goodness there that those of us who aren't on Agile should mind and pay attention to. All right, let's talk about who is really in the hot seat for planning. Now, planning is obviously a team effort. This is something that weighs very heavily on the mind of your CMO, right, Jim? Jim's on mute, but I think he's nodding. We had a conversation.
Correct. Yes, nodding vigorously.
It's big, it's important. And every single, all of your teams are involved. They're going to be executing these plans. You've got functional marketing leaders who are going to be helping contribute to the plan. But then you have your ringmaster in the middle who's really helping set up the planning process and making sure that the plans are aligned to strategy, they're supporting the CMO vision, and that they can be executed. And that's the role of the marketing operations leader and the marketing operations team. Now, I think some of you are probably saying, that's interesting. Aren't the operations people the ones who do list uploads or, make sure my marketing automation platform is running? Yes, but we are absolutely seeing much more of an evolution of strategic marketing operations leaders and teams that are very intimately involved with supporting the CMO through the planning process, through keeping an eye on budget allocation, to making sure that that the organization is measuring the right things so that there can be demonstrated progress to plan, or that we have data and insights to adjust plans. So this is absolutely becoming a critical role for the operations team and the operations leader. In fact, we've seen an increasing trend. It's been accelerating about over the past 5 years that the head of marketing operations is formally acting as the chief of staff to the CMO. So this role is absolutely grown up and is moving beyond just sort of a back office, people in the corner crunching, information into a system type of role. We also clearly delineate that there are specific things that the marketing operations team or leader own in partnering with the CMO for the planning process, such as they're typically the driver or the orchestrator of it. They're generally the ones who are accountable for a lot of the scheduling. They can be producing or monitoring the use of planning templates. And oftentimes they're facilitating conversations and planning meetings on behalf of the CMO to get information together for the plan. So it's definitely a significant role. If we drill into this a little bit more, what you're looking at here is our Forrester Marketing Operations Range of Responsibility model. And across the top, you can see the expanded scope that modern marketing operations teams are taking on. It's covering everything from measurement and analysis duties, which are very traditional, data management, which has become significant part of the role, especially in the post-GDPR years, planning and budget management. We're going to drill into that for a sec. stack. They continue to manage the marketing technology stack. There's an increased interest, especially since we've been in pandemic mode, around how do we do internal process improvement now that we're dealing with distributed and remote workforces. And how do we actually keep an eye on the marketing ops team itself? How do we grow it? How do we make sure we're adding the right skills and people, and we have the right competencies, and we're able to be structured in the right way to support our overall marketing organization? So it's a huge remit if you're on an operations team. And then again, if just, oh yeah.
Can I ask you, just because
Of course.
you highlighted the chief, yeah, you're on a roll there. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, no.
You highlighted this chief of staff of marketing, or chief of staff to the CMO, sometimes we're seeing, and how it's, I guess, coming of age. And I'm really curious about that. That's actually a title that I hadn't encountered for most of my career. And we're just seeing it more and more. What differentiates the chief of staff from, say, just a director of marketing operations? And more importantly, like, what skill sets do you need to have if you're going to be a chief of staff that's more strategic level from a traditional marketing operations function?
Oh, Jim, fantastic question. Typically, the difference is if you are operating as a chief of staff to the CMO, you tend to be somebody who's further along in your career. You tend to have developed, often painfully over the time, organizational savvy, a deal of business acumen. You can be somebody who's comfortable sitting in a meeting with a lot of other senior executives and talking about growth strategy, and is the organization able to execute on that strategy? You're prepared to ask hard questions. Great, we want to move into Japan. How are we doing this? Are we going through partnership? Are we going to stand up an office? Do we have domain expertise? Are we going to be hiring Japanese speaking people? Do we have data to support going after buyers in this market? If not, how do we get contact data? How are we going to establish systems? What's the legal structure of this going to be? I mean, you're able to ask a lot of big questions because you need to be there to help your CMO formulate and support plans for that. So yeah, it's definitely some experience, it's organizational savvy, it's business acumen. And if you've been in operations for a while, the old joke is that marketing operations is a bit like Switzerland. We're sort of a neutral party, and we're surrounded by a lot of competing interests. So we see and hear a lot of things. So typically someone who's had a career in operations really has a strong sense of, what's really great about the marketing organization, where are their strengths, where are areas where there's opportunity for improvement, what's the relationship like with sales, what's the relationship like with the product organization or the channel organization or the customer success organization. So it's just a role that's really well positioned. It has a lot of insight, paired with some of that business savvy you develop over time. They really can become a strong partner for the CMO, where, the CMO is worrying about things like, what's the brand, and how is the company positioned in the market, and how are we going to, support some of these corporate initiatives. They can turn to the chief of staff and say, I need this to work and that to work and fix this process. And the chief of staff can get it and go and rally the troops to make that happen. Does that help sort of clarify the difference between the roles?
Extremely helpful. Thank you.
You bet. Well, building on that question, when we look at some of the specific roles and responsibilities in wearing this planning hat, or this more strategic hat for marketing operations, if we look at this model from the bottom, which is quite tactical, going up to the top, which is more strategic, you obviously are going to want to have people in your operations team who can do sort of day-to-day budget operations, partner closely with finance, track spend, manage accruals, things that a lot of marketers don't have the time or the interest or the energy to cope with. As you get more experienced, you can start to see marketing operations people playing a strong role in coordinating work to tie marketing execution together. So it's things like, how do we start to build combined programs? So it's not just, hey, we're going to send an email, or we're going to send an ad, or we're going to do this webinar. How do we tie it all together to an effective demand program or a reputation program? And as you gain in maturity and scale, how can we tie this together to do a bigger campaign, something that's going to last longer, that's going to have a thematic tie to a specific set of buyers and their buying needs. Again, you layer the skill set on and it's okay, now you're comfortable driving the annual marketing process. You can corral people, you can sit down in front of different functions and ask hard questions. One thing we found is nobody comes to marketing and says, here's the information you need on a silver platter. It's much more, you have to go hunt for it. And you have to be willing to ask some of those tough questions. And, again, when you get to that upper level of capability is you're really able to do some of those cross-functional readiness assessments. Great, we want to go to market in Japan. This is what we're going to need from a data investment, from a technology investment. This is the kind of skill set we need to hire for. You can give and share those assessments with your CMO so that the organization is ready to support the company goal to, in this example, move into a new market. So it's a very deep skill set, and we're certainly seeing this pop up in a lot of our clients' operations teams. All right. So we've talked about what planning is. We've spoken about who's driving it. Well, let's roll up our sleeves and really talk about how do we start to develop more resilient marketing planning. And this is really important. So again, not only because of the spotlight of the COVID-19 epidemic, but again, we're in a volatile environment. Product life cycles come faster than ever. Changes in buyer behavior are significant. In our last B2B buying study, we noted that the number of interactions has significantly increased year over year in terms of a buyer interacting with an organization before they make a purchase decision. There are more people involved in purchase decisions. Roles are changing. There's so much that's available for self-serve digital. It's just we're in a really fluid environment. And then, you throw a pandemic on top of that. It's like, wow, all bets are off. So we really talk a lot about resilience in planning. And if you look at the definition of resilience, it's very important because it's allowing you the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And it also implies the ability of a system, or in our case, an organization, to withstand changes in its environment and still be able to function. So how do you start to build resilience into planning? Now at Forrester, we have a planning methodology, a planning template that we introduced in 2016. It has become hugely popular and is really recognized as a best-in-class planning approach. And we call this the marketing plan on a page. And it's this is a simplified view of it right now, but basically it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's trying to move away from bottoms-up planning and do much more top-down planning, where your marketing organization is very closely aligned to business objectives and the strategy. And the way to think about the plan is you really start with business objectives. What does the company want to achieve? We want to grow. Where? How? In what markets? With what buyers? With what new product offerings? You're really linking it to those business objectives. Functional approach. This is the sort of the strategic approach marketing is going to take to respond to the business objectives. So that's things like, are we in a growth mode? Is this a market we really should be exiting and stop marketing activity on? Is this an area where we're innovating? We're not necessarily ready to start revenue growth, but we've got to provide air cover and, again, build that awareness so people know that we're a player in this market. So there's different levers you can pull in terms of your functional approach. Functional priorities. This is where the marketing leader or leadership team really says, here's the important things marketing has to do this year from our own personal agenda or our own personal lens. And they could be short-term, there could be long-term needs. And this is really an area where your CMO balances the competing asks of different stakeholders. What is sales asking us to support? What do we need to support from a product perspective? What do we need to support from an overall corporation level executive? What are their potential employee needs or customer buyer needs we need to support, or third-party influencers? Marketing serves a lot of stakeholders, and there's a bit of a balancing act when you set priorities. Then we get to functional goals. And this is quantitative goals, very clear, very measurable, of what marketing is going to do to contribute to the business objectives for the year. So say we want to grow 20% in the mid-market, great. Marketing is going to sign up for a specific sourced or influenced pipeline role, or maybe they're going to set up for a goal about becoming a preferred vendor or driving customer retention. These are all things that you can set that are very measurable, quantifiable. Key actions. This is a very important column because this is where you start to make some high-level recommendations of the kind of work marketing should be doing in the coming year to support the goals. It is not a laundry list of tactics. I have probably looked at a million, more or less, marketing plans over my career, and most of them are about this thick. And we're going to achieve XX goal at XX% because nobody's figured out measurements. And then we're going to give you 97 pages of all the different tactics we want to run in the year. That to me is first draft thinking. That's not an effective plan. You really want to give some high level recommendations to support the goals, to give direction for the teams. And then the final aspect of this is to mention dependencies and risks. What are things that could impede marketing from actually achieving these goals to support these business objectives? Call them out and let's start to resolve them. Now, let's show you what this looks like. And by doing so, I'm going to introduce a hypothetical company, meet data storage products, easy for me to say. They're a $2 billion global company headquartered in San Jose, California, and they manufacture large data storage solutions. And they provide some data storage management and retrieval and backup software. And they primarily sell to telecommunications organizations, big finance, big healthcare, and the governments. So let's look at their marketing plan on a page. And again, apologies, it's a little bit of an eye chart, but you can clearly see that they have clearly noted what are the company business objectives. They want to maintain 10% enterprise segment growth, and they've got a revenue target. They also want to move into storage as a service for SMB space. And this year they're really hoping to hit 100 million in revenue. There's some marketing approach defined, there's some retention, there's some growth. They're definitely going to be doing some innovation as they move into the SMB space. And they also have some growth targets because they want to expand routes to market by really targeting a lot of their telecom partners. They've defined some priorities and they've clearly defined some marketing goals, very specific. We're going to grow customer retention rate by a defined number. We've got an upsell cross-sell pipeline we need to support. And we're also going to be looking at some share of voice. This is a new market for us. So we have a big goal here. We have some internal infrastructure we need to implement if we're going to support this SMB market because it's not going through the normal sales channel. And we'd like to get 50% of our known service providers signed up to be providers. And then we've got some key actions defined. Again, not a laundry list of tactics, but things like we're going to set up a customer retention program. And we have an existing campaign and we're going to keep it and we're going to use it to focus on upsell, cross-sell. In the SMB market, we really have to build out our reputation. And we're going to be building out some recruitment material and a program to target those service providers as we use them to go to market. And then there's some dependencies and risks that are noted. So this is a pretty thorough and basically built to be resilient plan. In a normal year, your business objective is probably not going to change. Your marketing goals probably aren't going to change. You probably need to work through and address your dependencies and risk. And if you can't address them, potentially you don't get the resources you need. You may have to then modify some of your key actions. And if things are really severe, maybe then you do have to modify your goals. But the idea then is to share this key action information along with the goals downstream and have people develop programs, campaigns, and activities to support these. So you've got some flexibility built in. But again, because we are dealing with such a dynamic environment, sometimes there's bigger changes, and having this type of plan is going to allow you to respond so much more effectively. So let's take a look at one of those scenarios. Here we're talking about a financial crisis has hit, and it's really going to hit our potential targets in the SMB space. People are blocked from getting capital. It's just not going to be a great time for a purchase of new technology offerings. And so because of this, all of our business objectives are now at risk. We may not be hitting this $500 million growth goal in the enterprise. And we're really concerned about this $100 million target for SMB because the SMBs are really going to be hit hard by this. And now in this case, we really do have to revisit the entire plan. Actually, before I go on, let me take a pause here. Jim, I know when we spoke, when we were getting ready for the call today, you had mentioned that you have some clients that have been in a similar situation, and you had some kind of success stories to share here, where clients have run into this and had to sort of rescope plans. Anything you want to share with our audience today?
Sure. I mean, our clients are no different from every other business that's got hit with some crisis. I love how you just add a financial crisis on top of everything else there, Marcia. You need to plan.
I was feeling like pushing it today.
Yeah, but for sure, over the last few years, we have seen our clients move from, as you said, yearly planning to quarterly planning to much more iterative planning process. An example of that is Danone, which is the Danone yogurt company. We actually there's a great example story about the move to embracing more agility and adaptability in their planning process. They've shrunk it they do monthly now, and they look monthly within geographies at stores that deal with competition, state of supply chain, and everything else to run the right promotions at the right time, which is obviously pretty complex to pull off in a global scale.
Yeah.
But that's an example, I think, of it's almost a constant evolution or continuous planning process that they've moved into, which I think is pretty interesting. The other thing is on the B2B side of, that's a consumer example. We have a B2B customer, Faro, who's taking, I think, like many of us, have taken this disruption that we've seen in the business marketing to kind of retool the entire thing. And no hints here, but they actually just submitted their example to Forrester for your Forrester Awards. So look for that.
Okay, it's a small world.
Yeah, it's a small world, but they've something like increased the velocity by 9 times or something with their revised funnel metrics. B2B is all about the funnel metrics because they're thinking about this continuing planning and adaptive approach to marketing. So,
well, congrats to them. I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, me too.
Great. Well, yeah. So again, it demonstrates to our audience here that there's lots of things that can disrupt plans, and that if you lean into more of the planning aspect rather than just building plans, it also provides that resilience to help you cope as we all are in this very fluid environment. All right. Well, going back to our example here, if we are in a situation where we have to rescale the entire plan, again, we start back with our plan on a page construct, and then really look at what are we looking for things that could change. So, as we enter new market situations, there's a series of questions you want to be able to ask. Do we need to reconfirm our business objectives? In this last example, our actual business objectives are at risk. And so that's something, it's important to confirm, like how much do we need to adapt them? Is this really a significant change? Is that also going to drive a change in our spectrum of approaches? Maybe we were going after a huge aggressive goal, and now there's a growth goal, and now we need to reset and really look more at retention. Or maybe we're looking at a new market, and we need to double down on some innovation to get our name out there. Again, there's opportunities to adjust based on the changes in the business objectives. It's an important time for marketing leaders to provide clarity. We're going through turmoil. What are the mission critical priorities? Again, I've talked to a lot of marketing organizations, and they're usually like, yeah, this is our top 20 priorities for the year. And I'm like, really? 20? Talk about peanut buttering your organization. Let's get it down to, if we're really in a time of turmoil, what are our top 3? What are our top 5? What do we want people to focus on? The other stuff is nice to have. Like, let's be very clear about the direction for the teams. Functional goals, again, if you're going through a major change, those goals may get shifted, what the ask is of marketing, and you may have new KPIs that you're being tasked to hit. So that's something that's important to clarify and restate. And again, you may have changes in the recommended actions you want your marketing team to execute. There may be things that you say, we've got to drop this. It's no longer important. And marketing teams, and I speak as one, person who's been on them, we're really bad about dropping work. Like, no, this is my pet project, I want to keep it. But if it doesn't make sense for the goals, if it doesn't make sense against our revised business objectives, we shouldn't be spending the time or the money or the effort on it. What do we really need to focus on? Or, hey, this is something we're doing and it's going really well, let's double down on this. Again, lots of common sense decisions here, but you want them to be clearly communicated. And also, you need to be very clear about any new risks or dependencies that have been interjected into the environment given the big changes. So if we go back to our example company and we take a look at their plans, so now just looking at the SMB space, we have shifted our business objective because of this financial crisis, and we're dropping our revenue target. Sales has also been making some changes. And again, they're a stakeholder you want to align with. So the sales approach is now going to be around verticals instead of just trying to cast a wide net over the entire SMB potential market. We're really going to focus on 5 key verticals. Okay, now let's take a look at how we could revise the marketing plan. So now our business goal is that 70 million target for the SMB space. We're going to, instead of innovate and try and make a big splash to go into the SMB market, we're now going to target our top 5 verticals to support sales. And there are going to be some very industry specific packages, how data products can help you in healthcare, or how we can help you in financial markets, being very, very clear about our value proposition. We need to then do some immediate investment in vertical expertise. Maybe we're having to borrow some people from product management who know these spaces better so that we can speak with authority. And we also have to shift and focus on getting some immediate customer references in those verticals to support sales. We now have revised our marketing goal. Instead of a big pipeline goal, or instead of big goals about share of voice, we really want to get 30 marquee acquisitions because that's going to be our inroad into these markets. And we've changed some of our key actions, and we also have some new dependencies and risks. So you can see we've had one significant change. Instead of having to tear up a 90-page plan, we can be very crisp and clear about this is what's changed for the business. This is the translated impact to marketing. This is the revised marketing goal. This is some new recommendations for actions the team needs to do. And here's risks we all need to be aware of. Now we can go back and cascade and calibrate underlying plans to support this new direction. And Jim, I'm going to pause here as well. I know that you've had some questions among your audience, your clients, around things such as communicating changes to marketing plans. Any comments on that at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love the concept of plan on a page. I could see from the chat going on that the audience loves it too. But it's just, the thing that surprised me, I look at the slides and it just kept hitting me over and over again, is if they're actually on a page, in a PowerPoint, in a Word doc, in a Google doc, in a Slack message, in a spreadsheet, how do you actually engineer the shift, right? Like, where do people go 2 weeks or 3 weeks afterwards to refer back to, wait, what were the changes we made? How do you prevent what I call plan drift? Here's the plan, let's do a presentation to it. And then 2 weeks later, people start to do things of their own accord that might not be in alignment with the plan. So are there best practices around that you've seen among your clients?
Yes, it's an excellent question. So part of the appeal of a plan on the page is that it's something that's easily communicatable and consumable. No one in their right mind is ever going to go back and reread a 97-page marketing plan. It's sort of like the plan's built, let's put it on a shelf and we're done with it. Whereas if you have something that is a single page, it can be, you can laminate and tell people to pin it up on, in front of their monitor, like, look at it every day. Is the work you're doing aligning to one of these marketing goals, or is it aligning to one of these key recommendations? So the very nature of a plan on a page is that it becomes a powerful communications tool. Other things that we see clients doing are lots of common review of the plan. So again, instead of building a plan, putting it aside, never looking at it again, with plan on a page, we have marketing leaders stepping up and talking about where are we to plan at every marketing team meeting? Where are we to plan at company meetings? Where are we at plan when we do monthly or quarterly business reviews? The plan becomes this ongoing beacon to avoid that sort of drift or scope creep. Hey, somebody's like, oh, I got a great idea. I want to do this. Okay, the first question should be, how does it support the plan? How is it aligning to that plan? And then obviously there are, tools such as, I know for a fact, Allocadia that you acquired, that allow you to have the plan as part of the day-to-day system that marketers interact with. Like I'm going to be executing something, or I'm requesting funding to do something. Oh, this is the activity I'm doing, which links to this program, which links to a specific campaign, which is supporting the specific marketing goal. So you've got that clarity, that cascade, that line of sight to the work I'm doing is actually supporting a measurable objective that marketing has signed up for. And let's keep that front and center at all times.
Very good.
Awesome.
Nice brand placement there. I like it.
Well,
I led the witness.
yeah, just a little bit. All right. So wrapping up here on resilient planning, it's really important that as you build this kind of a plan on a page, that the marketing leadership, your marketing ops team, that chief of staff, you're keeping a constant eye on it as well. When you start to look at things that could disrupt your plan, the first thing you look at is your dependencies and risks. I mean, obviously, these are problems that you've noted at the time of planning. Are you addressing them? You also want to, be monitoring your operational KPIs. Like we may have a pipeline goal, but we need to look at our demand waterfall and see how our flow is going and what are our conversion rates. That's an early warning system to see if we're going to hit a bigger revenue target. And there's also some other early warning systems that you can develop and use. And, a quick peek at those is, things like your macroeconomic growth data. Hello, news alert, we're in a big pandemic. What are your customers saying? How is the product usage going? What's happening with customer satisfaction surveys? I mean, there's lots of things out there that you can leverage as a bit of a headlights to see if your plan is going to, execution plan is going to run smoothly, or if you need to go back and do those resilient tweaks, either on new dependencies and risks or new recommended actions, potentially goal changes, or big picture, ooga, we've got to change everything from business objectives on down. All right. Let's talk briefly, I'm keeping an eye on the time here, but I did want to touch briefly on the idea about cascading plans. So again, how do you take that plan on a page and really translate it down to all the different levels of marketing so that there's clarity amongst the teams about what should they be working on now and why? And how is this supporting the plan? So quick terminology. Again, we touched on this very briefly at the beginning, but in our taxonomy at Forrester, we have your annual marketing plan or plans. Underneath that, we have the concept of campaigns. And again, this is one of those words, I always think of the Princess Bride movie. You say that word a lot. I do not think it means what you think it means. Because every organization has a different definition of campaigns, sometimes multiple definitions. At Forrester, we view a campaign, think of it as a campaign in a big C. It's an integrated buyer needs-based themed approach with a set goal, and you run a campaign over a bounded period of time. So instead of, hey, we're doing an email campaign, or hey, we're doing a campaign to get leads, it's more, we're running a long-term campaign to speak to a buying audience of IT security managers who are concerned about preventing risk to the organization. And we're going to talk to them how we support them in avoiding that risk. Program families, I mentioned earlier, again, this is the coordinated sets of tactics that you're executing to build awareness, drive reputation, to source or nurture demand, to engage with customers, to enable your sales organizations. And then individual tactics, we all know and love. This is all the different things that we work on day in and day out in a marketing organization. And we do separate those to view a tactic as having two elements. There's an offer, which is some type of asset or content or message. and a delivery mechanism, which is your interaction type. So it could be a webinar, it could be an email, it could be a newsletter. Enough of the vocabulary. When this is just a visual view of our campaigns where you've got your theme built on these 4 programs I mentioned. But when we go back to our plans, say we have, again, a plan on a page for a marketing organization. And as we start to cascade this, we really want to take a hard look at what are our marketing goals and what, again, are our recommended key actions. This is the information that needs to be communicated down and across the marketing organization. We're going to look at a specific example. We've got this organization, they have a very aggressive growth goal as they move into the mid-market. And they're signing up for 132 million in sourced and 400 million in influenced pipe. And their major recommendation was to take their existing campaign, again, big C, which is their protect, detect, and connect campaign, and they're going to modify it for mid-market buyers. Great. So now the campaign team has their marching orders, and they can adjust and work with the Forrester campaign plan on a page. And the nice thing here is it very clearly says, this is the campaign we're working on in the theme. It identifies the campaign audiences, 2 primary buying audiences, and their specific buyer needs. We identify the marketing goal we're supporting, and we've set a quantitative goal for the actual campaign itself, where we'd like to drive 44 million in sourced and 134 million in influenced. Then you build out your campaign plan where you're looking at your 4 program categories. And again, you're setting goals. What do we need to do in reputation, in demand, in engagement, and in enablement in order to hit our campaign objective of the 44 million in sourced? And we could need to drive some awareness in one of the buying audiences. We could have to increase our net new opportunities. We could have to increase conversion rates. We may need to be putting some double down into customer engagement and getting some new case studies. And we may have a problem where late stage deals are stalling, and we're trying to work with sales to figure out what we can do to get those deals moving on and into the close won status. We then can build out some summary of the different things that we're going to sign up to do to hit these goals, such as potentially developing some very one-on-one or targeted chief information security officer executive engagement. Or again, if we look just at the demand family, which I'm sure most people are familiar with, one of the big things we want to do is create an acquisition program going after our mid-market IT security manager buyer, and we want to source 400 net new logo opportunities. Let's then drill into that so we can hand that off to our demand team and say, this is what we need to do. Well, they can, you're seeing a theme here, they can build a program plan on a page. And again, we're very clear about it's an acquisition program aimed at a specific buyer. It links to this campaign. We have a clear program objective of 400 net new logos. We have some success metrics because we know we're going to win if we hit that 400 net new logos, but we can also track our conversion metrics. We can look at tactic performance. We can look at cost per opportunity. We understand our target audience because it's been very clearly specified. We know our different buyer needs because we've done our homework and we understand what motivates these security managers. And now we're starting to get into our key messaging. And this is going to be something we'll carry forward throughout this demand program, this whole "are you ready" concept. Are you really prepared to defend against the next generation of security attacks? We can outline some program strategy and dependencies and risks. And now we can start to get down to, all right, what's the content we're going to need and what are the specific delivery mechanisms we're going to use as we run this demand program? But wait, there's more. You can now take this down even at additional level and start to build out, all right, if we're going to do this program, let's start mapping it out and building a tactic calendar to say, what are all the different tactics we're going to leverage over a time frame linking to this mid-market campaign, and let's make sure that we're lining things up so there's no gotchas. If we're going to be doing a webinar, we've got to backspace out the invites. If we're going to be doing a CISO roundtable, how are we going to be driving attendance for that? What are the communications we need? Is there going to be advertising we're linking to this, or blog posts or changes to the website? Again, so that everyone's working on the same page. And if we then have a situation where we run into a snag with a tactic, we can roll that up and say, are we going to adjust the program? Or are we going to, is this tactic not working? Can we make a change? Oh, the program's not working. Well, then we can roll that back up to the campaign level to try something different. But again, this gives you many levers to have very flexible planning while still having a clear line of sight up to this is a marketing goal we're supporting for a business objective. The other piece of this, again, Jim, going back to what you said about communication, is that you always want that plan to be front and center, and you want to have that periodic review and adjustment of the plans. So again, this is a template we provide clients who are looking at doing quarterly or monthly business reviews and getting very crisp and clear about, what is our significant goals and how are we doing against them, having some standardized measurement. Really then talk about, high level, how's this going? How's your campaign or your program doing? Are you on plan? Are you below? Are you over? Let's give some commentary. Do more, do less of. Upcoming key milestones. Reiterate if there's any dependencies or risks, and also make any specific asks if you're coming to leadership for some additional resources or additional time, or I need access to someone who's got knowledge that I can use on this. So again, it's trying to make that plan and that planning work that you've done throughout the year living, breathing, and ongoing. All right.
Marsha, while you went by the calendar, and it just, again, one of these things that kind of sticks with me because
that's right. We talked about that. Yes, this is a biggie.
Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge I've always seen, like in my career, is okay, you got a calendar and maybe the marketing team is on the same page and viewing the same calendar. Even that can be a stretch, especially if you have thousands of marketers and you're a global company. But how does the rest of the organization, how do you communicate what's happening in any given time at the right level to the right audiences to anyone in any function in the company? That's always been an ongoing challenge. I don't know if you've seen things emerge there, best practices around that, but I'm curious.
Calendaring, I am firmly convinced, and I will put my money where my mouth is. I sort of throw a challenge out to the genius software developers and the technology providers of the world. Whoever can come up with a really great, easy to use, scalable calendaring platform that's going to help marketing organizations with 3 big use cases, I will put money in their company. I'll pull out money from my 401k and put it in your company because there is such a market for that. The 3 big use cases we see amongst our clients is marketing needs a calendar that they can easily communicate committed activity and events to the organization as a whole. What major events are we going to? When are we having a major product launch? What are the dates for that? When are dates that, significant new campaigns are launching? Everyone wants to know this wherever you are in the organization. And, it's going to be information that you publicly share on your own website, but everyone internally wants to know this. So, a calendar that can simplify and show people, here's what we're doing, here's what's committed. Oh, and if you're interested, you can drill into it. Like, sales, common scenario. What events are you doing for me in my patch? I want to look at this. The second of the big scenarios for marketing calendaring is that you really need to be able to track marketing work in progress or more of a production calendar. And there are lots of available options for that. There's a variety of vendors that are doing marketing resource management, people management functionality, or collaborative work management tools. But this is something where you really want to get marketing standardized on a platform, like one. Get off spreadsheets, have a dashboard, a tool that provides this kind of workflow transparency across the marketing organization. So people know what's in process, what's maybe stalled, what's already been delivered. I talk to a lot of people on marketing teams that are overwhelmed. They're a shared service function within an organization, and they just, the spigot of work is just always coming at them. And they need to be able to tell people like, hey, first of all, is what you're requesting part of the plan? Great. Okay. If yes, here's where the work is scheduled. If no, we need to have a scoping conversation to see if it's actually going to support plan. So having that kind of internal transparency on the work is huge. The third major use case is to be able to configure the calendar for special use needs like major operating deadlines. When do we have board meetings? When do we have, financial transfers have to stop? When are accruals due? All that information also needs to be baked into a calendar. So Jim, as a marketing person at a vendor, I sort of throw the gauntlet down at you. There's a lot of opportunity here, but this is definitely a pain point for organizations.
Well, Marcia, unfortunately, we've closed our funding, so we're not going to take your money or your 401k. However, here's what I can say is that if anyone on the audience would like to stick around at the top of the hour, I see that my friend Stephanie actually joined. She'll happily go through how you can put a plan that's on a page across this cascading function into a system and be able to communicate it with a calendar that anyone can navigate at whatever level they please. So if you're interested in seeing how we do that, stick around. It'll be the backstage pass part of today's.
Ooh, all right. That sounds intriguing. Well, Jim, I'm keeping an eye on the time here. So I had a couple slides on budgeting, but I'm thinking it might be better at this point to just sort of open it up and see if we had questions from the audience on resilient planning, cascading planning, or the important role that operations plays on this.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, budgeting near and dear to our heart, but let's focus on the planning. And actually, a question came in that tied the two together, which I think is a really good one.
Ooh.
Jaron, it says, how does the shift from annual planning to quarterly revisions work with the annual budgeting cycle? Like, how does that work?
Ooh, all right. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a touch on this. We have a process we recommend at Forrester that's called our strategic allocation model, and it's a really simple concept. Marketing is going to get a set amount of money at the beginning of a year, whatever that is. There's your bucket. This is what you get. Typically, then there is a slice that's made of that money, and a percentage goes to headcount and capital expense, and a percentage is your variable program spend, all the money that people have to use for different execution of marketing activities over the year. Don't get hung up on the percentage here. They're just illustrative, but there's some sort of split between headcount and program, and it's usually pretty close to 50-50 or 40-60. Most organizations then say, okay, here's our program spend, and we're going to dole it out. And here's how much field marketing gets, and here's how much the demand team gets, and here's how much PR gets. And that's the way it's done. What we allocate or advocate for is another split where you then divide your program dollars. Again, don't get hung up on percentages, but you want the larger percentage, if it's 70 or 60 or whatever percent, you want that going to sort of your campaign bucket or your important programs bucket. So this is the money that's going towards those big things that you've outlined are going to support your marketing goals for the year. Maybe again, to use our last example, you're running a big campaign against mid-market to really target those IT security managers and chief information security officers. You could be running a campaign against the chief information security officers in enterprise. However you slice it, you want those big dollars to go against your big initiatives. We also then have a concept called out of campaign spend, and that's where you put a lot of your keep the lights on money for marketing. So it could be this is the funding for shared services like creative services teams or your content team or the web team. You could be putting money into proprietary events that you're doing because those tend to cut across all your campaigns. You could be putting money into retainers for your agencies, your PR, your AR, whatever agencies, and any other funds. I've seen clients put things like SEO is out of campaign spend because you're buying the same keywords across the organization. Let's centralize it and get the most bang for our buck. And then you can subsequently drill down into your funding to say, great, how much funding is going to go to each campaign? How do we break it up by the different categories of work we're going to be doing? And then you can have some reconciliation where, again, if you do this top-down work, like this is the budget I put against a campaign, we're going to allocate a certain percentage against these different program families, we're going to spread it out across quarters. Then there's a bottom-up true-up where, again, if there's adjustments, we have to take a haircut, whoops, we've got extra money at the end of the quarter, you can then do some adjustment on that. But you also want to think about execution types. So a lot of the spend is happening for sort of headquarter-based or global development of assets or development of new delivery mechanisms. Then there's going to be some global delivery execution. There's also going to be funding for regional execution. What could change throughout the quarter, and again, as things vary, is there may also need to be some funding for things like regional development or industry specialized market development, because there's people who are closer to those audiences. So you still have the flexibility to cascade money down, and you can make adjustments on the bottom up. But again, you want to move away from purely budgeting by function or by tactic type, because then you're locking yourself in. If you're putting a pool of money against a campaign, knowing there's certain levers you have to pull on that campaign, and maybe there's some adjustment you're making, it does give you a little more flexibility throughout the year.
Very good. Look at that. That was like a perfect tee up for the last few slides that you had on budgeting.
Whoever threw that question out, thank you. That really helped us.
Yeah. Marcia, it's obvious that this is a huge topic, and we could go on for a while talking about it. I know people are exiting. So just a couple of things I want to say. First of all, thank you so much, Marcia. This is fantastic. Very good. Couple of other things. We learn from experts like Marcia, and we actually have another webinar that's coming up on March 9th with Forrester analysts, right? We actually kind of get into a playbook for marketing planning. But in addition to that, if you're like me, you like to learn from your peers. And I would encourage you, if you're in any of these cities or near any of these cities on the slide in front of you today, sign up for our Pivot Fast Roadshow. You can do that right on our website. They're in February and early March. Get together with your peers. You hear from practitioners that are dealing with the planning process. So I encourage that as well. And then finally, I will say, Marcia, thank you, and I'll bid you goodbye. But if anyone in the audience would like to stick around and watch a 15-minute quick overview of how you take all these concepts and put it into software that allows for continuous planning, financial management, and productivity, then stick around, because my colleague Stephanie has just joined, and she's a pro at doing this.
And Jim, thank you so much for the time, the attention, and a wonderful conversation on my favorite nerdy subject, which is planning.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Have a great day.
You bet.
Stephanie, take it away. Maybe you can give us a quick overview. You heard some of the conversation. I don't know if you saw some of the chatter, but I think there people are interested in how do you imprint a plan into a system of record and measure performance off of it.
Happy to take you through that. And a lot of the points and use cases that Marcia laid out, especially at the end with on the calendaring piece, are going to be hyper relevant in the Hive9 platform. I promise I'm taking you into the platform. I just have this up on my screen just to give everyone an idea of the flow of the story we're going to go through, starting with the planning as the foundation, bringing you out of spreadsheets into an intelligent calendar, connecting with your back office finance systems, pulling in your actual expenses, connecting automatically to your budget so there's no surprises with finance. And then last but not least, from a performance management standpoint, Hive9 shows you what's working and what's not. Taking a look at our performance reports, not only looking backward, but using the foundation of your plan to predict the business impact for the year going forward. So without further ado, let's just get right into it to be mindful of time. So I mentioned we start with getting you out of spreadsheets and into a collaborative environment. Planning is the foundation. It informs us of what we'll be doing, and it points us in a specific direction that leads us to our goals. So in my view, I have a standard hierarchy in place. I have my plans that are here at the highest level. Expanding that shows my campaigns, which here represents the 3 markets that I'm targeting. I'm going to expand that again to show my programs. And then within my programs, let me expand a couple more of these, are going to show me my tactics that marketing is executing. And I can even take it a step further if I'd like, and I can get right down to my line items that are within my tactic. And it shows from my lowest level, all of my plan costs rolling on up to the plan, so I can see how my tactics are consuming my budget. The platform supports advanced segmentation within the hierarchy. And this is what's going to enable marketers to do a meaningful analysis of their plans. So I have filters on the left-hand side, which shows that segmentation. But what marketers tend to do when they come into the Hive9 platform to tell that story from a different point of view is make use of the pivoting. I can view my planned costs through the lens of any attribute like persona, industry, or tactic type, to name a few. The reason why I bring this up is we've had customers who tell us that when they're going to speak with executives about their marketing plans, they're no longer using PowerPoints. Once they're in Hive9, they can simply pull up the Hive9 platform to enable their discussions. Say if the CEO says, hey, we're overspending on IT. Well, as a marketer, you might have the data to say otherwise. I'm going to back out of this because I want to continue on the theme of visibility and get right into that calendar that Marcia was talking about. So let's get back into my hierarchy. And now I've switched over to my calendar view. The hierarchy that was in my previous screen is maintained here, but this time the difference is my tactics are displaying across my calendar that shows which tactics are in market at which time, color-coded by tactic type based on the time frame that I've selected. And there's different ways to collaborate throughout the platform, including from my calendar. I can export my plans and share them with stakeholders, for example. But what most of our customers are doing is they're integrating with Outlook and Google Calendar. So I can share my calendar in a link to subscribers who do not have a Hive9 license. So for example, we're going to hit on sales as that example that Marcia gave. You can share this calendar with your sales teams, but you wouldn't want to share your whole calendar, nor do they really need to see your full marketing calendar. So I could just filter down to my tactics that are going to include events, for example. Once I have my filtered view, share that link out. Any updates are synced to my link nightly. So once users are subscribed, they're always up to date. The marketer doesn't have to manage multiple calendars, and everything is in sales world in their calendar. Some other things I can do, I can always edit my tactics from my screen. I can go into the weeds and see some of the specific details of each of my tactics. I won't do that today in the interest of time, but what I do want to call out is within the tactic, I have my line items. And then I can have multiple line items driving to different financial budget codes or different GL codes. From there, we can also generate the purchase recs, send it to your back office systems, pulling in the actuals and invoices into Hive9. Now, in my views here, this is marketing's world. We're looking at everything from a hierarchical plan. But what about finance? How do we enable those conversations with finance and promote visibility with them? So let's shift over to the funding and resourcing side of Hive9. The reason why we have our different views is marketers tend to think about their budgets in terms of their campaigns and programs. In other words, how that budget is being used versus where it's coming from. But finance wants to view things from their point of view. So Hive9 supports that finance view in terms of a cost center GL code point of view. What are you doing with your budget? I can expand my budget to show my budget lines. And then from there, I can see how my line items, how my tactics, how my purchase recs, how those are all consuming my budget line. In this case, I have color coding to show that my green means tactics, my light green means my line items, and all of my purchase recs are going to be in purple with various information that I can see across the screen. Really what this does is it sets finance up for productive conversations with marketing. They have full visibility into what marketing is doing. And there's even control here as well. So some of the actions I can take from a collaborative standpoint, we have comments. Commenting features are available throughout the platform where I can @reference other users. They get a notification that something is requiring their attention. A full audit log. This is really great for transparency. When you have so many people in spreadsheets, so many cooks in the kitchen, it's really hard to keep track of changes. If someone goes into my budget line and they change the amount of financial funding, you can go into your audit log to see who made the change and when. And then I mentioned that control piece. You can control access of who can see each line and who can't. All right, so taking a look at the time, I think I'm still good. I have about 5 minutes left, so that should leave me with plenty of time to get really into some meat and potatoes. Let's look at the performance management, excuse me. Now, there's multiple dashboards that Hive9 can produce. We're going to look at a summary one, which is really one of the most powerful dashboards that we have. So we're looking at the actual performance of your plans, predicting the performance for the year. In this case, I have my plan at 3.7, my goal, I'm about 3.7% over my goal. So far I'm projected to do fairly well. I can interact with my chart, seeing my actuals for what I brought in for January, and then projecting out into the year compared against my goals. But how does it project? Every plan in Hive9 is backed by a revenue model. The revenue model understands waterfall conversion stages and rates, stage velocities, and average deal size. And it can be modeled for different markets, for different geographies, et cetera. That model is what allows us to predict the results of the plan. So by looking at the way things look now, what's come in January, we're projected at what our plan year looks like. But my next step is, well, how do I make an impact against that number? Yeah, I'm projected to beat my goals, but we have plenty of time to really make a dent in that number. And that's where the splits come into play. So we have different KPIs below my chart, segmented by revenue, by performance, by cost, and by ROI. Let's take a look at an example in if I wanted to impact my performance. Right now I'm viewing my performance by my audience, and it looks like executive influencer is where I'm lagging. Let's pivot that by vertical. Let my screen load.
So while that's happening, Stephanie, so
Yes.
obviously in order to get this performance management, it means you can't just have a planning and budgeting application. You actually have to tie into that execution stack I referred to at the beginning of the webinar, right? Otherwise, you don't really know what the results are historically and can't predict against it. So all of that is part of the process as well, right?
Absolutely.
What are the most common platforms that you're integrating to get the performance data to kind of close that loop on ROI?
So most of our customers are integrating with a CRM system like Salesforce. So they're pulling in their actuals, their leads from TQL all the way down to revenue. And then if you layer in also connecting with your back office system, so we're pulling in the actuals, that performance data in terms of your leads and your conversion rates combined with your cost data is what's going to bring this performance dashboard to life.
Yeah, got it. Holy grail, which is ROI. That makes sense.
Absolutely. And now my screen is loaded. So now I'm looking at performance by vertical. We were last looking at the executive influencer, which was lagging. I'm apparently lagging in my manufacturing vertical. I'm going to take it one step.
You're still ahead of plan, Stephanie, and we got a job open for you on marketing if you're looking.
Don't tell Bruce that. Well, actually, I'm doing all right in geography, although maybe I could make a little bit more of an impact in EMEA. As a marketer, what this story tells me is if I want to make an impact on my plan and further exceed my goals for the year, then I want to focus my messaging on my executive influencer in my manufacturing vertical, and I'm likely going to focus in the EMEA geography. Now, I know we're coming up on time, Jim. There's one last section that I want to take you through that's going to bring it full circle. Lastly, is where we're looking at our waterfall performance at a high level. I have the volumes being produced at each stage, and then I'm taking a look at the conversion rates. Here, the story that it's telling me is, in terms of my telequalified leads, not too much of a red flag, 28 to 29.9% of my goal. That's not too bad, but this closed one here, I'm 28.2% below my plan. That's a red flag. As a marketer, this might tell me that I need to focus more of my efforts around that late stage, maybe content or sales enablement content that's going to help improve my closed one. And of course, both of these charts, I can go in to view additional details. The same thing, backed by the revenue model, I'm comparing my actuals using the revenue model behind to project out my performance for the year. I can view it by the different stages of my waterfall as well. But below that is where we can dig into those details to show the inquiry stages and stack rank my plans, my campaigns, my programs, and tactics based on their performance. And while I'm drilling in here, so I'm drilling from my plan down to my campaigns into specific programs. And what this does as a marketer, it gives me the insights so I can make decisions. For example, which tactics do I want to defund? Which ones do I need to provide with newly available funding? And as I click down further and further into my tactics, I can always be taken directly into that tactic. We've come full circle all the way back to planning. And based on that budget, hey, maybe I want to reference someone on the team. Hey, do you need additional funding for this tactic? Now I'm going to stop there in the interest of time. I've taken up about 10 to 15 minutes, Jim. I would love to do a more in-depth demonstration for anyone who's still on the line, or if you're listening to this recording, we can certainly tailor a very detailed demo to your specific use cases as well. But that at a high level is the story of Hive9 planning, finance, and performance.
Stephanie, that was awesome. 15 minutes right on the nose. And you didn't take time from us. I actually took time for you. Just so you get, so everyone knows, I just asked her yesterday to jump onto this like last minute, give a demo. So that was awesome. Look, thank you for those of you who were able to spend the extra 15 minutes. Really appreciate you joining the webinar. And there are some great questions. I'm sure you have very specific questions to your business. My recommendation is visit any one of our 3 websites and just request a personalized demo. And we can give you a personalized demo and answer those questions. In the meantime, have a great afternoon. And thank you again for joining. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.